Hello fellow bike people, I want to address these old bikes that you can find on Kijiji for like $50, $100, or maybe you have in your old shed and you just are resisting getting fixed up because it seems like a big deal. This style of maybe 90s era road bike, yeah, they're not as light as a modern road bike and it can be a little tricky to find some of the parts, but they were built to last when these were made, especially things like this Raleigh. So if you're considering buying a fixer-upper like this, or if you have one in your shed that you want to get fixed up, hear me out, it's totally worth doing. So first, some context. This bike was donated at Cycle Path for PMC on Mississauga Cycles. It was given to us by one of our customers alongside this one here. Now both bikes have stickers that say Ramsey's on them. That was a local bike shop near, where was it? I think it was in Port Credit, here Ontario, just north of the train bridge there. They were one of the longest standing shops in the city, and as much as they're out of business now, I still see tons of bikes coming in with that Ramsey sticker. So bikes from that era, man, they're really long lasting. And this Raleigh is a great example of bikes from this era and the kind of thing you could really easily find on the used market. So it's made out of reasonably good quality steel. It's not fancy heat-treated chromoly or anything like that, but it's a good quality steel that's nice and thick, and the paint job on here, also super thick and long lasting. You can see this bike is ancient and there's barely any chips. The only thing I'm really seeing wrong with the paint is the scratches here from where the chain is slapped on it. This is one of the ones that was made in Oakville, so locally manufactured bike too. It says Nottingham, England on the front because there was still Raleigh, the British company at the time. But down here you can see the sticker, manufactured in Canada by Raleigh. So that was one of the made in Oakville bikes. And part-wise, this thing's just old enough. It's from before Shimano became popular, so it's got all Suntour components on there. Which honestly, I like them. The Suntour components from this era, they're really good. They're well made. I approve. Now I'm fixing this bike up for Mississauga Cycles. It's going to be going up there. It is a charity donation. But despite the fact that this particular bike is going to charity, I wanted to make this video because this bike is so perfectly representative of the kind of thing you can easily find on Facebook Marketplace, Letgo, Kijiji, any sort of used classifieds. You can find a bike like this, and with just a little bit of work, totally worth it. So when I say these bikes were built to last, here's what I'm talking about. It's not just the frame and the paint having really thick material and paint jobs so it lasts a long time. It's things like these wheels. Despite being a steel wheel, which is not the most accurate material, steel is strong but flexible, the wheels are running more or less perfectly straight, and if you put your hand here on the frame and spin the wheel, there's almost no vibration because the bearings are still intact and in good condition there. If you look at the chain and the teeth on the chain rings and the freewheel, everything is in perfect shape. All the angles are as they were the day they left the factory. The wear factor on a bike like this, it takes a long time compared to anything like a modern bike. Even the shifters, this style of shifter is called a friction shifter. You know how normally on bikes, one click is one gear? There's no clicks on this. That click is called an indexing. There's no indexing here, so you just move the shifter around until the chain goes into the gear properly. So it's a little inconvenient to operate, but they're as close to maintenance free as gears get. I mean, you hear people talk about internal gear hubs being low maintenance. I see you and raise you friction shifters on old school road bikes. And even the cables, pretty smooth. There's no roughness in there, there's no resistance, it's not sluggish to spring back, so it doesn't even need new cables. All this bike needs is fresh tires and some fresh bar tape. The bar tape is obviously, this stuff's unraveling, it is super thin to begin with, so there's no padding on that tape. You're going to want something squishy to hold on to there. And the other thing is the tires are super dry rotted. So the rubber is actually like cracking and falling apart at the sides here. I'm actually chipping bits off the rubber. And this being work that you could totally do on your own with just basic tools. Really, all you need is wrenches, and even if you don't have tire levers, just use the back of a spoon or something round that's not going to gouge the new inner tube. Because in this case, the bearings are all intact, and the cables are good, and the wheels are straight, we're going to need tires, which are about $20 or $25 each, inner tubes, which are about $5 or $10 each, and some basic bar tape to go on the handlebars. And really, that's it. This stuff's about $15 to $25, depending on what you get. So, all together, let me do some math here. All these parts here in Mississauga, in Ontario, where there's a lot of sales tax, comes to a grand total of $87 after tax. If you only paid, let's say, $100 for the bike in the first place, that seems worth it to me because you can't buy a new bike for under $200 right now. And even if you could, if you really want a new bike that's under $200, it's what we refer to in the bike world as a BSO, a bicycle-shaped object. They look like bikes, they run like bikes, kind of, for a little bit, but they fall apart and they're not as efficient or as user-friendly as a proper bicycle. That's why we call them BSOs, bicycle-shaped objects. Instead of getting a cheap BSO for probably even less money, you can get one of these old bikes fixed up. It's going to last you a super long time, it's going to be a way more pleasant ride, and it's going to be reliable. You're going to have to do way less maintenance on a bike like this than you would on a department store BSO. So I'm doing this in a shop setting, so I can use whatever hacks I want to make this easier for myself, but I want to frame this in a you can do it yourself kind of light. So these are the tools you're going to need if you want to do it at home. Super basic set. 15mm wrench for taking your wheels on and off. Some bikes might use different sizes, but 99% of them 15mm wrench to unbolt the wheels. A tire lever for taking your tires on and off without hurting your hands or damaging the inner tube. And a bump. You might also need some scissors and some electrical tape just to finish off the bar tape, but other than that, super easy, very few materials required. So now I'm going to show you how few steps it actually takes to get this done. Check this out. Pausing the time lapse here, that's a rim strip. If you have exposed spokes there, you gotta cover them up. Electrical tape kind of works, but it sags into the valleys and doesn't give you enough protection. These high pressure vinyl strips, about $4 from a bike shop. These are good. There we go. How quick and easy was that? The steps were basically remove that wheel, remove that wheel. I'm sure you notice I used a different wrench here because that's one of those weird ones that's not actually a 15. Leave the tires off, put the new ones on with the rim strip if needed, put the inner tube inside, squeeze it down, use your hands to pop it over, pump her up, put her back in. Tires are all good to go. And like I said, the rest of the mechanical components on this bike are already pretty much perfect. Worst case scenario, I might have to do a little bit of a nitpicky adjustment just to make it reach perfection. And then the bar tape is really just like wrapping a tennis racket, a hockey stick, any other piece of sports equipment that uses a taped grip. Most of the tape is adhesive on the bottom, so it sticks pretty well on its own. You just gotta work it around the corners and try and keep it taut the whole time so you don't get any like loose bits or bubbles. So as I said before, this bike is going to Mississauga Cycles. It was donated at CyclePath specifically to be given to charity. The Mississauga Cycles runs their whole mentor-mentee program, which is basically giving loaner bikes to newcomers to Canada and then having mentors teach them about how to ride the bike, how to build a social life here, how to do whatever they have to do to get involved with the community. And I think this is the perfect bike for that. It's not only beautiful, but it's super reliable, it's going to be long lasting, it's going to be low maintenance, it's going to be reasonably high performance, and it's the perfect bike for somebody who wants to be able to work on their own bike and learn the mechanical side of it without risking messing anything up that's, on the expensive or the fragile side. Steel is easier to work on than carbon fiber, right? So now all I've got to do is clean this bike up, give it a little bit of polish with the Pedro's Bike Gloss. That's just a silicone polish for bikes, but you can use Mother's, Armor All, whatever other silicone polishes you have just to shine it all up and give the paint a bit more protection. I'm also going to put a little bit of oil on the chain because that's a little on the dry side, but other than that, these bikes, I love them. So low maintenance, so much fun, so easy to work on.